And as soon as I started to play, there we get. So, anyways, diving back into it today, as the title of the stream suggests, is a really big day in my life, and that is because as of today, the 9th of September 2021, I am celebrating 5,000 days of sobriety, and that is a really big deal. It has been a monumentously difficult journey to get here because I'm going to start by telling that story a little bit. I'm going to give just a couple of minutes to let some other people slide in here, and then we're going to dive into that story because it is a pretty wild story, and it's worth telling. It goes back to why it is that I'm no longer in the Navy and has some things to do with that, so I think it'd be pretty interesting for you if you stick around and get to see that. So anyways, starting with the story, it kind of have to tell this story properly. I have to go all the way back to being in high school, and way back in high school, had a best friend growing up. I still know him today, but we haven't hung out in a long time now. But still actually good friends with his parents as well. His name was also Nick, so it was Nick and Nick, and his last name starts with a P. My last name starts with an R. So when it came to alphabetical seating, we always wound up in class next to each other, and that's just kind of how we became friends over the years. And so in high school, Nick had met a girl named Stephanie, and Stephanie became his girlfriend, and they were together for quite a while, had things really going on between them, and they were planning on going the whole way, getting married, everything else. And unfortunately, going into our senior year in high school, which I'd already been having a lot of problems. I never really fit in school anyways, and, really butted heads with a lot of my teachers because I just kind of saw the world a little bit differently than they did. And so going through that, we had our differences there anyways, but this just was kind of the catalyst that set everything on a roll. Is the 5th of October of 99, Stephanie was on her way to school. She had someone come around the corner, run her off the road. And when they ran her off the road, the truck flipped over. It flipped upside down, and she was killed instantly. And that was a really tragic morning. And I had been kicked out of school at that point, and we were kind of going through the throes of what was going on. And then that was just kind of the linchpin in all of it. I knew at that point that there was no going back. And so the 8th of October of 99, we buried her, and then on the it would have been the 9th of October in 99, I had my 18th birthday, and so it's crazy to think it's been that long ago now, but it has. And so it was a really tough deal, burying one of the best friends you have in the world day before you turn 18, and that's just what life is. It hits you with those things when you're down. And so we go through that terrible ordeal and coming out the other side of it, and we're trying to figure out what it is I'm going to do, because I know I'm not going back to high school at this point. I just can't stomach it, can't stand to do it, and just wasn't mentally in the space to do it. And spent a whole lot of the next couple of weeks blitzkrieg, drunk out of my mind, and somewhere in there got sober enough to go have a conversation with my dad, and we sat down, talked about it, and wound up going over to which I was already seriously considering the military anyways, but we went over and talked to the Navy recruiter over in Bozeman, and I'd already taken the ASVAB, and I scored like in the top 89% on the ASVAB without even studying for the test. And so the recruiter, they were like, oh yeah, we really want this guy. So they did everything they could to get me in, and they got me into a special program. And so the 15th of November, I showed up at boot camp. I left immediately. Like as soon as I could get gone, I got gone. I left the 14th, showed up to boot camp on the 15th, and was the first people to show up for Navy Division 069. And that was a hell of a deal being in the that class. And every one of us were someone who didn't have high school diploma. They were trying to grow the size of the force, and so they had a special program where you could get your GED through the Navy. And so the first 2 weeks, everybody kind of did their thing, and anybody who wanted to could go take remedial classes, and then everybody went and took the test, and I went in and just walked. I didn't really study or anything. I just went in and took the test, got my GED, and was in the Navy at that point. And so spent the New Year's millennium pushing down the floor, and then the 2nd of February shipped out of there. I graduated, and the 5th of February went down to Pensacola, Florida. And that's kind of like the a crazy time because I went down there and I took my black Trans Am, by the way. I used to have a 1980 turbo Trans Am, and I took that to Pensacola. And oh my God, did I do so much partying? I mean, I was having more fun than a 19-year-old kid should. You know, it was just that was a hell of a thing right there. And so we went through all that, and things were going really good. I wound up in boot camp. I wound up in charge of ship staff there. I had 187 guys working for me there, 185 to 187, kind of fluctuated around there. But then they got ship of the quarter. It made the ship look really good, and so everybody was really happy about that. And I was killing it with life. I was doing really good. And then come forward and go through A school, and at A school they said, hey, we need a class leader. Nobody raised their hand. I raised my hand, so I became the class leader there and did really well. A couple of my guys were struggling, and so we went in and we got them into a study group. We met Monday, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. That way we could go out and party on Fridays. Friday, Saturday, Sunday were the days for partying. And so got all the guys that were struggling in my class above a C average, so nobody was failing in my class. And for the aviation electronics technician school that we were doing in the Navy, that's actually pretty unheard of. It's a very difficult school, but we got the study group going. We got things really happening. I'm class leader. I'm doing the thing, running PT, getting these guys all taken care of. And so everything is just like going all of a sudden amazingly. I mean, I had some really tough times while I was waiting to class up, but once we got classed up and got going, I did really good. And there was actually, in between one of my sets of classes, there was this sad incident where a sailor walking home in Pensacola had been killed by a drunk driver, and our chief was having the parents down because they'd finally convicted the guy. He was going to prison, and the parents wanted to see the kid's barracks room. Well, chief told me, yeah, well, we'll find a room, and wanted me to see if I could figure out who it was, and I couldn't really find it. He's like, oh, well, just, clean up a room, and we'll show him, we'll tell him. I was like, well, I understand that this is the type of thing, from what had happened with Stephanie. I understood that it's the type of thing that where you really hang on the words of friends you've lost and people you've lost for a long time. So I stayed up all night and dug through the old logs, and I found where we had checked him in like 3.5 years before. And so I was able to find the room, get some guys up there to make sure the room was completely tidy. And then when Chief showed up down there with him, it was hilarious because the room he was going to have us show him looked down on the smoke pit. Didn't really have any views or anything, but it was a vacant room. And I had found the proper room, and by finding the proper room, they go up there with the parents, and the first thing the dad does is walks in and sits down at the window, pulls the curtain back, and looks outside, and he basically starts crying right then and there. He says, yeah, he used to sit here and talk to me on the phone at night, and I just wanted to see this view for myself. And it was so funny because Chief turns around, he looks at me, and he mouths the words. He's like, thank you. Because that would have been a huge embarrassment. So we got it figured out. We got everything settled. And so that scored me some really good points there. And so the call came across. They were looking for some people to go into the aircrew program. And so Chief came to me first. He's like, hey, you've been doing some really good things. Would you like to go to the aircrew program? They'll pay you more money every month. And I was like, yeah, sure, we'll do that. What's aircrew? I didn't even know. I was just like, yeah, we'll do it. And so I shipped off out of there for a few weeks, went over to Naval Aircrew Candidate School, got really good at swimming, got really good at running. Like the final test is they take you offshore and in a boat, and they kick you over the side, and then they have a helicopter come out and pick you up and then put you back in the water so you could practice the recovery if you're down in the water. Now you're 5 miles offshore, and you've got to swim those 5 miles back to the beach in full flight gear, mind you. And so we did that. We swam the entire distance back to the beach, and by that point we'd been doing so much swimming and we'd gotten so strong it was easy. I mean, it was kind of a non-event. It was just like a fun day. It was like, hey, we got to go up with this helicopter and do all these things, whereas, a couple of months before, like that would have been just an insane experience for any of us. But the training was really cool, and I got to learn a lot of things through that. So then I finally do my final A school there, and then wound up waiting and come out of into my graduation. And it was a crazy thing because the captain of the base, a guy by the name of Captain J, he shows up at my graduation, and I didn't realize it was a big deal because you got to keep in mind Captain J, he's in charge of like 10,000 people. That's how big Naval Air Technical Training Center in Pensacola is. It's like 10,000 people there, and so he comes in and they call attention on deck, and he calls me up. And I think I'm in trouble. Like I'm like getting ready to face the music because I think that I am like seriously screwed at this point because the captain of the base has just come in looking for me. And he's got paperwork in his hands. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, what did I do? Did I get busted for something? Did I have too much fun partying? Did I sleep with the wrong girl down there? What did I do? It's like all flash forwarding through my head. I come up there and he has me there standing at attention, and then all of a sudden I hear him read the words model sailor. And they handed me 5 letters of commendation right then and there and meritoriously advanced me from an E2 to an E4. And that was just like, wow. And so I got the bonus. I got all this, accolades, a big pat on the back, and a handshake from the old man that ran the base. And I was like, okay, well, that was cool. I kind of didn't really have any frame of reference. And so we go through the graduation ceremony, everything else. And we come back, and coming back from that, my instructor comes and pulls me aside. He's like, wow, you have no idea what a big deal that is. I've been here at this base now for 5 years. I have never seen him attend a graduation. And I was like, oh, wow. And so it was like, wow, career mode activated. I guess we're going to do really good at this Navy thing. And I mean, I'm just all feeling good, strong and tall, and walking out of there now, and I'm feeling great. And I was really bummed because my dad chose not to come down for that graduation, which was a big bummer. But him and my mom were going through the divorce at that point, and there was a lot of stuff going on. He was like, oh, well, can't do it. So probably one of the happiest moments of my life parents couldn't be there for, because they kind of knew me as a kid growing up who was just getting in trouble all the time because didn't really have any supervision because they were too busy fighting with each other to really pay attention to what the kids were doing. So it was like one of those days. That was pretty wild. And so we go through all that, and I know that I'm losing the transmission in the Trans Am because I had way too much fun with that car when I was down there. I mean, I had a lot of fun with that car, and that's kind of why I was nervous about the captain of the base showing up at my graduation, if you know what I mean. And so I've got to go to my next school, which is SEER School in Brunswick, Maine, and I'm thinking, okay, I could go to Maine in the car, but I'm a little worried about it. I got to look at it. I was like, I think I'm just going to drive the car to Montana because I knew I was going to NAS Whidbey next up in Washington here. I knew I was going to NAS Whidbey next. And so I looked at it and I was like, that's a bit of a trip for that transmission. So I just took the car back to Montana and flew out to Maine because I had enough time to drive there. They gave me like 15 days to make the drive. It was crazy. And so I drove back to Montana. I was in Montana like 2.5 days later, and that was like, that trip was insanity sauce. I left just as a tropical storm was blowing in, and the girl's in there packing up all the dental records when I go into dental to get my dental records, and I was like, I need my record. I'm PCSing right now. And she's like, well, I can't help you. You blah, blah, blah. I said, ma'am, I'm fixing to get in a car and start driving away from this base, and by tomorrow I will be 700 miles away. Can you please help me find it? So I just, laid it on and did what I had to do. It got, just kind of got into that zone. It was a crazy thing I've done. And I was able to convince her, and she looked it up, and fortunately they hadn't packed my record yet, so she went over, was able to pull it right off the shelf, hand it to me, sign me off. I drove immediately to the quarterdeck, and I was on my way. And that storm chased me the whole day, whole night, and I got up into Kansas. And I'm in that black Trans Am, right? I'm in Kansas, and that storm had followed me up, and so it's raining really hard, and I'm coming across Kansas, black Trans Am, Montana plates, and this car comes up riding my ass, and I back out of it to let him go around me because he's just blinding me with these really super bright headlights he's got. And I slow, and I'm doing the speed limit like 65 at first, and then I'm down to 60, 55, 45, and this guy still won't go around me. And I started to get pissed, and since I got pissed, I just set the hammer down on the floor and opened her on up. And I'd done a little bit of work to that car too, mind you. She was not stock. And I walked away from this guy, completely left him, and failing to realize that this guy that was tailgating me was a Kansas State Trooper. And so about 5 minutes later, this car comes rolling up on my butt, and he pulls me over, and he's about ready to read me the riot act until he realizes that he says to me, he's like, well, why'd you, you're sitting here, you're slowing down, you're swerving, and then you take off. I'm like, yeah, this asshole came up behind me with these super bright headlights on, and it was just blinding me in the mirrors. I couldn't see anything, and I'm slowing down, trying to get him to go around me, and he won't go around and won't go around, and finally I had to do something because I couldn't get this car to pass me. I've been trying for 5 minutes or so to get him to pass me, and so I stepped on it and got away from him. He's like, well, that was me. I said, oh, well, you really ought not to tailgate people like that. So the look on this cop's face is just like, and I happened to have my active duty ID and everything on me, and he asked me where I'm going, what I'm doing. I was like, well, the car, I'm taking the car back to Montana so I can fly over, do my next school, and then blah, 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 and headed home. He's like, all right, well, you drive safe and get on out of here. And so he lets me go, didn't get a ticket. That was great. And so that storm, it keeps on pushing. We get up into Denver, right? And coming into Denver on 70, by the time the rain had got into Denver, it had turned to snow. And it turned into a late September snowstorm. And anyone who has been in Denver when it starts raining and then it turns into a late September snowstorm, you know that everything turns to solid ice. And I had summer tires on this car. And I was handling it okay, but I could feel her. She's just walking around. I mean, she is not wanting to ride in a groove at all. And I'm coming up right into Denver, right out there by the pilot that's up there, about a few miles from that on 70, just past the Sapp brothers there. And all of a sudden, this semi-truck in front of me slams into the Ford pickup that's next to it, sends it slamming into the divider wall, and then it slams back into the semi and spins and comes right at me, and I grab the wheel and somehow yeet the car through a couple of lanes of traffic, slide sideways down the off-ramp that's right there, because that was the only hole that I had to go through, and then just spin the tires like crazy to get into the pilot parking lot. And I'm sitting there like, wow. I think, if I was a cat, I just used 3 or 4 lives, because we just sent that thing skidding sideways and everything, and it was pretty crazy. So we come through that, and I work my way up, get some food, get some fuel, get out of Denver. And once I get north of Denver, get up into Wyoming, everything dried out finally, and I was able to make some good time, get home. And so while I was home, went and saw everybody. Of course, feeling good, because I'm in the best shape of my life. I mean, I'm absolutely yoked. I've been doing 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 sit-ups a day. And let's just say that it was, for a kid who didn't really fit in his hometown growing up, it was a hell of a thing going home like that. It just felt amazing. And it was kind of like that righteous retribution. And so we go in and go through that, and while I'm there, I happen to see this 98 Chevy Z71 extended cab short bed sitting down at the car lot for sale. And I go down there and I take a look at it, and they're asking they're asking $29,000 for it. It's got 22,000 miles. It's got the third door, leather interior. I mean, beautiful truck, only a couple of years old, very lightly used. And it was all cleaned up and prettied up. I don't even have any pictures of the thing nice. I wish I did. But we went out there, and I looked at the truck. And so finally, I've got to go to SEER school. So I fly out to Maine. I go through SEER school, and I spend my 19th birthday, I spend in SEER school in a mock prison camp in Maine, freezing my nuts off, because they thought it was going to be fall weather. They issued us fall weather gear, and it dumped a couple of feet of snow on us. So that was kind of the theme for those couple of months there. It was a lot of unexpected snow. And so we went in there, went through SEER school, and while I was going through the whole thing in SEER school, I made a deal with myself, and that deal I made with myself was, if I am going to go through this, if I am going to go through with it, I am going to, come out the other side, and I'm going to go buy that truck. And because I already knew that I was headed to Rota, Spain. I was supposed to go over there to a squadron in Rota, and they would ship my personal vehicle. And this is the funny part. The military had paid to ship my personal vehicle. I could take my personal vehicle over there with me. So I was like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get that truck, and I'm going to take that truck to Spain with me, and I'm going to have a whole lot of fun cruising around Europe in my Chevy pickup. And so that was kind of like my plan for life at that point, and that would have been really cool. And so I go home, fly back home after we graduate SEER, fly home, I go down, I buy the truck, I'm all excited, I'm feeling good. I mean, I've got really good credit at this point, and so I was able to get a pretty decent interest rate, got the truck bought, and spent the next day in town kind of getting all my gear packed up and everything, was getting ready to leave the next morning, and then me, my friend Nick, and ex-girlfriend Laura, we all go over to Bozeman to ride around together, and I'd met up with another girl who I'm not going to talk about here because she doesn't deserve to have her name said on my channel for few things she pulled, but me and her had started kind of dating that night, started kissy facing, and so I go and have fun, and so the girl I've been running around with takes off, and then I went to pick up Nick and Laura, and I picked them up, and we're headed home. And as we're headed back from Bozeman to Livingston, where I'm from, you go through Bear Canyon there. And going through the mouth of Bear Canyon, this guy passed me, just flying. And we come in there and come around the corner, and he has turned sideways across the interstate right in front of us, and I run into him doing 65 miles an hour. The truck flips over, the side of it hits the ground and hits the pavement, and I'm going to flip over. If you guys are sensitive, you might just want to look away for a minute. These pictures kind of do have a lot of blood in them, but this is the truck. And you want to talk about a hell of a deal. That was bad, man. I mean, that is all my blood in there, by the way, because I had to come out the passenger side door because I couldn't get the driver's open. But you can see the scuff marks on the side of it, where it hit the ground and everything else. I mean, that was just a hell of a thing. And you could see how badly the cab collapsed because, we were rolling over. And so, I mean, she came apart pretty bad. And that was a 65 mile an hour accident. Actually, I probably slowed down to about 50, 55, maybe 45 by the time it started rolling and spinning. But it wedged because the back end at one point hit the divider rail as we were spinning too, so it shoved the bed into the back of the cab. I mean, and part of the impact with the other vehicle, blah blah blah, and so it was a bad deal. And luckily, Laura had insisted on sitting on the center console, and so she wasn't in the back of the truck where she would have been sitting because she'd have probably been killed from that bed corner. Just crazy impact, just a crazy impact. And so it's it was really bad. And so this next picture is going to be of me, and like I said, if you're sensitive, you really don't want to see this picture, but this is me that night. And as you can see, my nose is shoved over where my right eye is. My left eye at this point had been punctured with a piece of my skull. You could see where my face hit the pavement. It was bad. It was really bad. And so that was a hell of a deal there. And so I'm going to move away from that image now for those of you guys, but that's so that was bad. And I was already drinking a lot at this point in my life, but this kind of started a new chapter. And I went through, I guess I got to tell the whole story here because I wound up in the hospital in Bozeman. I got myself out of the truck after the accident. I did first aid on myself, putting all that Navy training to use. And I just kind of figured, okay, there's an ambulance coming. I can hear the sirens coming. I'm going to go ahead. I mean, I didn't really want to mess with it too much because, I mean, I could just tell my face was bad. And in the picture you saw, that was after they closed up because the whole side of my face here had been split open. I mean, it was bad. There was a really bad gash there, and road rash, and there was gravel. I actually had pieces of gravel that came out of my face like a year later. Like I pulled them out from under the skin. I mean, that's how crazy that impact was. And so I am there with Nick and Laura, and they're mostly okay. Nick just got some glass in his arm, and Laura broke her collarbone, but other than that, she was all right. Although she was pretty traumatized. And so we go through all of that, and the cop shows up, and we sit down in the cop car. He puts me in the front seat, puts Nick and Laura in the back, and then he finds the guy who had the accident, and he sets him down in the driver's seat. He shuts the car off, sets this dude down in the driver's seat. And this dude was Middle Eastern, and he could barely speak English, and he just kept saying, "I so sorry, I so sorry, I so sorry." And then all of a sudden, the cop rips the door of the car open and says to him, "What in the fuck is all this white stuff all over the inside of your car? Is this cocaine? Is it meth? What is this?" And so they yanked this guy out of the car. I mean, Nick started pounding on the cage. He was ready to kill the dude. And so it turns out the guy had a car full of drugs, and he was high out of his mind when he had the accident. And so impaired driver in the country illegally, and it really, really screwed up things for me at that point. And so I'm going to take a drink here. So we go through that, and now I'm sitting here, I'm bleeding out. I mean, it's just bleeding all down my shirt, and I'm not in a good way at this point. and I'm starting to feel a little dizzy. I know I'm going into shock. And a paramedic comes and opens the door. I've already got my military ID in hand, and he comes in, he starts asking me questions, and I'm like, yeah, I think I got a punctured eyeball, blah, 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 blah. You just giving him the full rundown, and by the way, here's my military ID. It has my blood type, and he's just like, oh, no, man. So they get open the door. I get out, walk to the ambulance, lay down in the ambulance myself, and they take me to the hospital in Bozeman, and go in there, and the next bit, they start putting blood in me, they start stitching on me, start taking x-rays, family shows up, big deal. And so they get me closed up, get me where the bleeding stopped, and I'm just laying there like you cannot imagine the headache that came with that, and they just pumped me full of drugs. Like I am so damn delirious, I don't even know what's going on, what day it is, or how long it's been since the accident. And so the Navy, my new command out in Washington, that I've never been to, by the way, I've never been out here at this point, gets a hold of the hospital and says, hey, we heard our guys there, heard he got a little tore up in a car accident. We're going to take care of him. We want you to discharge him. We'll take care of getting him back here to us. And so they just discharged me from the hospital. Like, oh, here you go. Bye. And they just basically sold that said the Navy wasn't going to pay for it. That the Navy had a hospital, the Navy would deal with it. And what it was is they thought that I was making it up, that I'd gotten a bad accident, and I just wanted to spend more time with my family. I was just trying to take some more leave, which wasn't true because I actually had like 25, 30 days of leave on the books at that point. So kind of go through this thing. I get in the car accident, command, everything else. And so I'm laying in my bedroom, and the command calls me up, and they're like, yeah, you're to fly out here at once, blah, 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 get your ticket arranged, et cetera, et cetera. Like, they wanted me just to do it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty tore up right now. Why'd you guys tell them to put me out of the hospital? Like, well, you could come out here. We'll take care of you. That's what the Navy hospital here's for. And so my dad gets me a plane ticket, because, I couldn't even see to do it. Gets me a plane ticket, flies me out to Seattle. Now, which is what they ordered me to do. They said, go get on an airplane, be back here, let us know when the flight lands. We'll have someone come pick you up, right? And so they put me on an airplane, and I get on that airplane, and as the airplane goes through 10,000 feet, that's when it got really bad. I hadn't lost consciousness up until this point, but as the airplane depressurized, my brain case ruptured. All the fluid that surrounds my brain started coming out my nose, and that was really bad. It's CSF, cranial spinal fluid, and when that starts draining out of your head, you have a really bad problem. That can severely damage your brain. And so I start going in and out of consciousness. I'm starting to have a really bad time. And so they take me to I get into Seattle, get into the airport, go to the USO where I was told to go. And they had sent aviation electronics technician, second class, Petty Officer Ray down to pick me up with a Grumman panel truck. Like the Snap-on tool truck? That's what they sent to pick me up. And they didn't come with I thought there was going to be an ambulance. And I walk outside and I'm like, you guys didn't bring an ambulance? What's going on? And he's looking at me, and all he could say is, wow, man, wow. Like, we had no idea you were this bad. Wow. He said everyone out there just thought you were faking it. And so I guess apparently people just had a conversation like, oh, yeah, he's probably faking it, just get him back out here. Because I think that they were going to go and, try and write me up for it. And so kind of shows you toxic leadership stuff that happens in the military, good times. But so we drive 90 miles through rush hour traffic, by the way, back to the base up at Whidbey. And we get in there, about 1730 or so, 1800 hours. It was already getting kind of dark at this point. And they check me into the barracks, into a barracks room by myself. Oh, hold on a second. The camera just decided to shut off. Let me... Hopefully we have video back. There we go. Trying to use a DSLR as a video camera. All right, we're back. And so I go through and have the night in the barracks room. And, if I would have died, nobody would have found me. No one was coming to check on me. I was just there in really bad shape. Spent the night in that barracks room. And that was a long night. And so the next morning, I go and I walk up to the little base hospital that's there. Now, I go into sick call. Now, mind you, the base hospital there at Whidbey, it is so small that they don't even let babies be born there. And I'll never forget this because there's a guy the doctor. His name was Lieutenant Wong, big like 6'6" Chinese guy. And I walk through the door when I got to sit there in the lobby and just wait all morning while they're doing sick call. And so finally my turn comes up, my number gets pulled, and I walk through his door, and Lieutenant Wong's sitting there, and he's got his head down, and he's filling out his paperwork from the last one. He says, "So, sailor, what seems to be the problem?" I said, "Well, sir, my head hurts." And he looks up at me and flips his chair over backwards, just down he goes. And he comes scrambling back up to his feet, and he says, "What are you even doing here? Why are you here?" I was like, "Well, sir, my command told me to come up here." And he says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I had the accident in Montana. I was in the hospital there. They told the hospital to discharge me and brought me here." And he's like, and you could just see like his mind is just like, bah. He's about to lose it at this point. And so he just flips out, grabs the phone, dials my command, says, "You get a car and you come up here and you pick this man up immediately. You take this man to Bremerton Naval Hospital. Do not waste time. Do not be late. This is very serious." And so they're up there within like 45 minutes to an hour. They show up in this, it was a Chrysler LeBaron. And oh my God, you want to talk about a terrible car. It's this Chrysler LeBaron. It was like the off-white that they used to paint some of the GSE vehicles. So it's kind of like that eggshell creamy color. And it had this custard yellow interior in it. This car was probably like a 1987 or so. And it had gotten so hot so many times, the interior had just started to crumble apart. And so I'm sitting in the back of this car trying not to move because I don't want any of the shit off of this interior to get in my face. And so we start making the trip down. We catch the ferry over here to Port Townsend where I am now. And coming south of here, we stop when we get down towards Bremerton, stop at a McDonald's there. And the woman in the McDonald's practically throws my food at me. Well, actually literally threw my food at me because she was so freaked out by my presence there because my face is all, you guys saw it. She's so freaked out by my presence there that she throws my food at me. And they have to go remake my food because she just throws it across the counter. And so the manager's got to come out, got to get her. They go, and so they remake my food, and I could like barely handle my way through like some chicken nuggets or whatever else because the roof of my mouth is broken, and I mean I'm starving, but it's really difficult to eat, and it's just been a crap day. But all that strawberry shakes tasted so good on the way out of there. And by the way, I'm also still blitzkrieging on pain pills at this point too. And so they get me down to Bremerton Hospital. They get lost trying to find it. So by the time they get there, it's like 4:45 in the afternoon. It's like 16:45. And so the doctor that's been there waiting for us brings me in, looks me over, does a CT scan, comes back, says, "Well, sorry, son. Hate to break it to you, but there's nothing that we as Bremerton Naval Hospital can do for you." And that's kind of a big deal because Bremerton Hospital is the biggest hospital on the West Coast. It is the biggest naval hospital on the West Coast. Aside from San Diego, I think San Diego may be bigger, but at least this part up here. I mean, it's a major hospital. Port of Bremerton, they see people from all over the Navy region here. And so finally they decide, okay, well, we're going to put you in the barracks here tonight. I'm going to check you in, and then we are going to send you to Madigan Army Medical in the morning. And so they are supposed to have a duty driver show up and get me first thing in the morning at 0700 to run me down there. Well, 0700 shows up. I'm there. Waiting. 0800 rolls around. 0830 rolls around. I'm trying to call the doctor, and no one's picking up over his clinic because there just ain't anybody there yet. And so finally, about 9:30 in the morning, I'm able to get a hold of someone, and they're like, "Oh, the driver. Oh, okay." So they went and found a driver, got the driver sent up. Driver went and got a van checked out, showed up. This poor girl who's driving this 15-passenger van had no idea how to drive the thing. I mean, I felt so bad for her. I really wish that I knew who she was, like I'd gotten some contact information or something, because, you know, she was really kind to me, but she got really lost trying to find Madigan. And so it's like 1,400 hours by the time we walk through the front door of Madigan. And I get out of there and walk up, and I go through the front door of the ENT clinic. And I'll never forget Dr. Downey right then and there, because Dr. Downey's the doctor who basically oversaw my surgeries. Dr. Downey and Dr. Einbinder. He saw me walk through the door of the clinic, and I heard him say to the receptionist sitting there, "You cancel everything I've got. You call this person, this person, this person." I mean, he wiped his schedule They got me in, they sat me down, they started taking examinations, they started doing CT scans, x-rays, everything else that they had to do, figuring out what was going on. And the news was not good. It had now been 5 days since the accident. The accident was the 21st of October of 2000, and we were now, I think, on the 25th. I mean, kind of hard for me to say. I'd really, really high in there. But I was on the 25th, and so we're in there, we're talking, we're going through the thing, and they're starting to give me bad news. The bones in my face, because they have been broken so long, are starting to grow back together. The piece of my skull that has attacked it's the muscle that makes my left eye move this way, had been completely severed at that point and was dying. The piece of my skull was going into the side of my eye, and everything in my face had started to heal back together, and it was trying to rebuild itself. So it wasn't like they could just put it back together. It's no longer going to be a simple surgery like it would have been in Bozeman. It's now a major surgery. And so they took me in and they got me prepped for surgery. I mean, they had so many people coming and going. I think the final total was 12 doctors and 15 nursing staff. And I think they were in the surgery for something like 21 hours. And so we go in to do the surgery, and they get me laying down the bed. They start the anesthesia. And it was kind of hilarious, because I had mentioned, I didn't really have anything listed on my medical stuff for religion, because I'm not religious, but they had heard me mention that my sister had been going to Catholic school in a conversation we'd had, so they figured that I was Catholic, and so they called the chaplain up there to read me my last rites, just in case. And I was already starting to go under anesthesia at this point, and scared everybody to death, because I sat up in bed, I looked at him, and I pointed my finger at him, and I said, "You can go now. I'm not done yet." And I don't remember doing this. It was just a story that was passed on to me after the fact. And after the surgery, he shows up there in my room and tells me this whole story. And he says, "Young man, I have never been so happy to be asked to leave someplace in my whole life." And so we go through and we have the surgery. And what they did in the surgery is they cut over the top of my head. They pulled all the skin down off my face, all the way down. I mean, completely off my nose, everything. Like, this was, down to about right here, because there's screws that go in through here. And then they had to cut, because of all the damage up here, they cut over the top of my forehead, and they removed the front of my skull right there. And they had to completely scrape my sinuses out. So I no longer have sinuses here, because the sinuses had become impacted, and they had begun to be infected. And so, which I'm a little worried that was kind of that car ride down, maybe. I don't know. But so that had gotten infected. So those sinuses that were removed, they pulled some fat out of my belly, and they packed that fat in there, and then they closed all that up. And it's got several titanium plates and stainless steel screws that hold that in there now. And then they had to go in and get my eye fixed here, because I got the big scar that goes over here all the way out onto my nose where my face got split open. They had to go in again, and they had to pull the piece of the skull out of my eye. They had to reset my nose by kind of breaking it and reforming the bones back in, and then screw that back into place. And they did that the best that they could. And then they had to go in and they had to repair the muscle on my eye, and they did some really handy work to that. And I believe it was Dr. Einbinder that did the work to that. I'm not entirely sure. And then they had to put a little patch on the side of my eye where it was punctured. And so then they stitched me up, and they just grabbed the staple gun and do row staples all the way over the top of my head, closed me back up, and I had these little tubes that came out that provided suction to hold my skin back down so it would grow back to my head. And that was a pretty gory deal. And so we went through that, and I started on the recovery process. I'm in the hospital for a week and a half, 2 weeks. And they finally, they pull the tubes out and everything, but I've still got the staples in. Everything's starting to grow back together. And I've got some family members out here that I was able to go stay with. They let me come at their house for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and that was really nice of them, because I actually hadn't met them at this point. So they just, they were just a distant cousin, and my grandma had gotten a hold of them and told them what was happening. And so they said, "Oh, yeah, absolutely, send him over here." And so David and Kathy, thank you very much for everything you guys did there. I really appreciate that. And so we went through that. And I went back to Montana, and had my doctor's appointment right before I went home for the month of leave. for the convalescent leave that they gave me. And what was going on is my left eye was pointing this way because the muscle that makes it move this way had been severely damaged. And they said, we want you to understand it's highly likely at this point that your military career is over. You've had some pretty significant damage to your face, and we don't expect your eye to make a full recovery. It's also a possibility you're never going to be able to drive again. So I get back to Montana. I fly back out there, and I'm like, well, to hell with this. I sit down at my computer, and I strike a line down the center of the screen, and then I basically make that a focus point. I put my nose right at that line, and then I start moving my eyes over as hard as I can, and I start drawing a line and marking it by day with how far my eye can move. And I just start moving it and moving it and moving it. And I went up there several hours a day and just worked those muscles and worked those muscles. You know, I just came out with a workout routine for my eyeballs, basically. And I worked those muscles and worked those muscles until pretty soon I had my left eye working where we go all the way back over here. And I was like, wow, you know, there we go. Got that fixed. Carry on. You know, that was the Navy spirit, you know, adapt, improvise, and overcome. So we get past that. I come out and I go down and I buy another truck. 99 Chevy extended cab short bed. It was one of the newer body style, the GMT 800s, and didn't really like that truck as much. It wasn't as good of a truck as the 98. So I was really bummed about that, and it had more miles on it. But I bought it. I drove it for about a year and then sold it. But coming out of that, that's the part where I really started to get the painkillers going. And that's why this ties into the sobriety stream, is because they started feeding me a lot of painkillers. And I started having constant headaches, which, I mean, you guys can imagine. There's a significant amount of nerve damage in here, especially right in through this part of my face, and it, you know, the nerve group that kind of goes up through here. I just get these terrible headaches that come out of that. And so they started feeding me full of painkillers. Well, my leave at home came up, and just despite the doctors that told me I was never going to drive again, I got in the pickup, drove the 758 miles from my front door back to Madigan Army Medical to show up for my next appointment. Come walking through the door, and the doctor's like, wow, you look good. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's going to take me a little more time to heal up, but I'll be all right. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to put you into the limited duty program. You'll be in that program for the next 6 months, and then we'll see what we're going to do from there. So, excuse me. So they transferred my case at that point back up to Whidbey, back over to the Navy, sent me back to Navy doctors, and put me on limited duty. And then I did have a follow-on in 6 months with them, because they were going to have to redo surgery to my nose again, because they had to straighten my nose, because with the way the bones had grown back together, they didn't quite get it right the first time. So went back up to Whidbey, and still having headaches, still having problems. And so I just started getting fed full of painkillers by the Navy doctors up there. They prescription that they started giving me was 1,500 milligrams of hydrocodone once every 3 hours as needed, which is Vicodin. And so 1,500 milligrams once every 3 hours of Vicodin. And I could walk around high as a kite all day. And with everything going on, that's kind of what I did. I just didn't want to feel anything, didn't want to see anything. So we go through that. We do my next surgery. Next surgery goes good. And they pull me back out of that and send me back to regular duty. And actually where they sent me was up to VAQ 129. And so they sent me over to VAQ 129, and I wound up working the tool room over there. And for the first little bit there, I was having a lot of problems, because, I mean, I'm getting high a lot on the painkillers they're taking me, and I am going through, you know, just all the memory stuff, and we don't know it yet at this point that I've got some pretty severe brain damage. And so I'm doing things like driving to work and then walking home, and then getting up the next morning and reporting my car stolen because it's sitting over at work. And then I got to call base security to be like, oh yeah, I found my car, I parked it somewhere, and, you know, really embarrassing. And so I went through a lot of things like that, which I didn't really tell anybody, because I was really trying to salvage my career. And that was very unfortunate that I had to go through that in order to try and get the career salvaged, but that is what it is. And so finally, I was able to go through the flight surgeon, get a return to flight status, which meant that I could go back and attend school. And so we got started in school, and I got off the painkillers, and I started having two really big problems. One, I couldn't remember numbers, and the school was very numbers intensive. Very numbers intensive. And so we're going through all the numbers, and I just can't remember anything. Can't remember numbers to save my life. Can't remember numbers to save my life. Can't do mathematics in my head. And this is becoming a problem because in the Navy you have a burden of performance. You will perform or you will be counseled and you will be punished. And so I'm going through all this and things just aren't working. And so finally, after a whole lot, I'm not going to tell all the stuff that happened there, but there was a lot of stuff that went on. Finally, they send me back to the Naval Hospital, and they do a full neuropsych evaluation and come back with some really bad news. And they say, we regret to inform you, but you have a severe traumatic brain injury, and it is something that is non-recoverable. This is going to terminate your military career. And that was a pretty terrible deal. And by the way, in the middle of all this going on, right before this had happened, right before we found the brain damage, 9/11 happened. And so that was a bad deal. And so I was active duty for 9/11. That was pretty crazy, and I'm not going to talk about that right now because everything in the news the last couple of weeks. Don't want to get into it. But going through that, we come in, and they find out now that I've got all this brain damage, and they run a med board, and they decide to separate me from the military. So my last year in the military, my last year in the Navy, they put me at the Base Marine Limited Duty. And that was great because that's where I learned how to sail. I already knew boats, but I learned how to sail there. There's this old guy who'd come down. His name was Andy. And Andy was like 94 years old. Knew he was a World War II veteran because he had the World War II veteran hat and the sticker on his little VW camper bus that he'd come down there. His little root beer brown VW camper bus from the 1980s. Neat little rig. And he'd show up down there in that thing, and it was my job to go put his boat in the water for him when he'd come. Well, he'd come in on Saturdays, and so a lot of the time I got pulled in on Saturday, which I wasn't too thrilled about. But he'd come down Fridays or Saturdays, and when he'd come down, it was my job to go make sure his boat got in the water, and then that he got back out of the water and he got back in safely. So one day he says to me, about the third time we've done this, he says to me, well, man, instead of hanging out on the dock, why don't you take you out? I'll teach you how to sail. I said, oh, okay. So want to pop, it's just a little 12-foot sailing dinghy, but we went out there, and over the series of weeks after that, he taught me how to sail. And I've turned out to be fairly good at it, actually. And then the Navy finally finished the med board, and they separated me. And they put me out, they gave me, assessed it that I had 50% disability from the brain damage, is what they said. And so they put me out, and basically at that point it was up to me to go figure out what it was I was going to do at that point. And so I'd had a plan, and I was going to buy a boat and start on it then, and start on kind of what I'm doing now at that point. I was going to go to school for software engineering, use the GI Bill. I had the money to buy the boat, and I was going to borrow the money to put a set of engines in it. It was a Graham Banks 48 that I'd found. It was in disrepair, but completely fixable. I was going to put a pair of Cummins 12 valves in it, and that would have been really cool living on that thing going to college, but unfortunately, when I told my dad about it, he got really on my case. He's like, oh, it's a terrible idea. You're going to hate that. That's stupid. Why would you want to do that? And I called the whole thing off and did what he said I should do, which was move back to Montana. And I got back to Montana and was miserable. They were still feeding me full painkillers because I still had the chronic pain going on. Drinking at the same time. Being really antisocial. And I started to go to kind of a dark place. And then I wound up getting a CDL about 9 months later. Went through a bad breakup, a whole bunch of other stuff. It was really just a very terrible time in my life. And I got the CDL, bought my first semi, and went trucking. And I never would drink when I was in the truck. I'd always go somewhere else to do it. And I wouldn't take the painkillers while I was in the truck. I would, or when I was going to drive. On painkillers, I gave myself 8 hours. If I was going to drink, I gave myself 24 before I drive, just to make sure I was completely sober. I always stuck to that. But it kind of became a thing, and I found that my free time, there were times where I'd go out and drink, and just because I knew that I was going to take that 24 hours, I just used it as an excuse not to go find another load and everything else. And those were some really difficult years for that, because, going between painkillers and going between alcohol, I became really dependent on that stuff to function, and I was really depressed. I was really feeling terrible about my life, and there were some pretty bad thoughts that went through my head. I felt like my life had gotten really good for a while, and then it all just went to shit. And that was really tough. That was a really tough time. And so we get out and start traveling the country, going everywhere around. And I finally had made some friends down in Texas, and I decided to get out of the trucking business and go back to college. And so I'm down in Texas. And in 2007, down in Texas, New Year's Eve, I'd been drinking a lot while I was down there because I wasn't driving truck anymore, so I could do a lot more drinking. And I was going to welding school, and I was not having that great of a time. I mean, I was working a job that I hated, working for a guy who I really hated at the point, and a bunch of other people that I knew from the welding community. Some of them I worked with, some of them I didn't, everything else. We, New Year's Eve, had gone down to the usual bar down there on Leopard in Corpus Christi, and I'd showed up late in the evening. And I'd gone out with a girl, and that had turned into kind of a crappy deal and really wound up not liking her. So I just showed up late to the bar. And so everyone else had started drinking already. And I come in, I'm sitting down with my first Scotch and Sprite, my favorite. I sit down, and I have a couple of sips, and I'm looking around, and I realize these guys aren't very fun to be around. I'm looking around, and I stop drinking. I'm looking around. And I get hit by this really ugly, ugly truth. And I realize each of these guys that is in there, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15, 18 years, 25 years older than me, working in the same trade that I am. And then it dawned on me that I was living the same life that they had already lived. I was on the same path that they were taking. And I realized that not a one of them was happy. And with that realization that not one of these guys are happy, it scared the shit out of me. Because I thought to myself, I don't want to live my life unhappy forever. I knew I was unhappy then. I knew I was really unhappy. I took a look around and I said, I don't want to be unhappy. I don't want to live in all this pain. I don't want to go through it. And I went through a really serious wave of emotions sitting there. And finally, I just decided to myself, I said, I need to quit taking the painkillers. And I need to quit drinking. And I need to find a better way. And so I put my drink down, paid my tab, went home, and that was the last time I drank. That was New Year's Eve, 2007. And so what a crazy deal that was. And that is the story of me falling into alcoholism and pain pill addiction and coming back out of it. And so I hope you guys really enjoyed that. We're not done yet for the night, though. I don't want you guys to think that this is the end of the stream before anybody runs off. I do have a huge, huge, huge surprise to show you, and I think you guys are really going to love this. So we're going to give it just a second here. I need to drink some because we have been going now for, how long has this stream been going on? An hour and, was that, yeah, or is it 2 hours and 6 minutes or an hour and 7 minutes? I don't know which. Well, we've been streaming for quite a while. I guess it's an hour and 6 minutes that this stream has been running. So we've been on it for a minute here. That's a crazy story to go through. That is a very hard and personal story to tell. I don't like to talk about it. I don't like to think about it. Those were some pretty dark days. It took a lot to come through the other side of that. It took a lot to see my way out the other side of that life and to find myself in a happy place again. And I'm very happy to report that today I'm very happy where I am. I have been very fortunate to build a life that I don't need a vacation from. I mean, I get out of bed in the morning and I'm happy to be where I am. And so that's a very big deal for me. I'm probably the only thing, actually, I guess, I've got to get into some news I don't want to talk about. So for those of you that have followed along for a long time, you know about Dexter. Yeah. And He is still here. He is still with us, but I don't know how long that's going to be for. About actually, yeah, just over a year, or just about a year ago, I discovered some lumps on his belly when I was petting him one morning. They were pretty small at that point, but I spent my birthday last year sitting in the vet's office, and they told me he has cancer. So, for the time being, though, he is still here, and he he is having. It's funny because where he is right now, I'm surprised he hasn't barked through all this, but he's been sitting up on the lazarette on the back of the boat. He's got his little perch up there, and he just surveys everything going on in the boatyard all day long. It's so hilarious because he just sits there, and he walks back and forth and back and forth, and if he sees somebody he doesn't recognize, he barks at him, and then he's got the people that he knows that he's like really happy to see. It's hilarious. And so he has determined who is and isn't supposed to be in the boatyard. And actually, the other night, oh God, I've got my truck that's got the topper shell on it, and I use it to store a lot of tools and materials and everything out here. You know, the bigger stuff, the stuff you don't want to carry up the stairs to the boat. Not really anything in there that could be walked off with, but someone just stuff I want to keep dry. And so the other night, about 11 o'clock at night, I'm sitting in here, Dexter's up on deck, and all of a sudden he goes scooting down the deck of the boat, woofing, and then you hear this just deep guttural. I mean, you could just tell he is just growling his deepest, meanest F-U kind of growl, baring teeth. And I hear someone say, "Oh shit, that's a German Shepherd," and you just hear the footsteps tear off out of here. Whoever it was, they did their best impression of Forrest Gump because they just felt like running all the way out of this yard. And I popped my head out there and I turned the spotlight on, and someone had opened up the side door on the truck, and Dexter went out there and got him. I don't think he could have done anything about it because he's getting too old, but he sure scared him off. I mean, they weren't waiting around. Oh, that was just funny. And then he comes back in and he's all happy and proud of himself. And you bet he got some cheese sticks for that. He absolutely got some cheese sticks for that. And so that was just hilarious. And so, all right, guys. So now let's start diving in to the big surprise. And then once we get through the big surprise, we are going to talk about what's happening the next year. I need to move a couple of windows around here before I do this, because otherwise you guys will see everything that's on my screen. So give me just a second here. And you're absolutely, Lonely Ocean, you're absolutely right about that. He absolutely did feel good. He did. He was just so happy. Okay, so let me switch screens here right quick. I am going to flip over into this one here, and bam! This is the site. Actually, give me just a second. I'm going to go back into main. Give me just a second. I need to go do something so I can share this with you guys as well. I'm just flipping over into my other monitor here, and I have to turn the site on, so let me click that. Back to where it is. The site is online. And we'll go back into the site here. So check this out, guys. I am so proud of this. This is something I've been working on the last couple of years. And the last 6 months, I have done nothing but code on this. I have come home, I've just sat here every day and been working 60 to 100 hours a week on this site, getting it put together, getting it all flushed out. And so this is the Renegade Show website. And so this coming together, this is a really big deal. This website is online now for a test tonight, so you guys can see it after the live stream if you want to go over. We're just going to hang out through the rest of the live stream, but if you want to go over and check it out, it's renegadeshow.com. I will put a link out there towards the end of the broadcast so you guys can go see it. But I just wanted to walk you through what we've got over here and ask you guys to go ahead and sign up to it, because you're not actually going to process a credit card through it. When we get to that point, I'll tell you guys how to do it. Do not put your actual credit card in here yet. It's not ready. Please listen to that. Please do not put a credit card into the site yet. It is not set up for it. It is not ready for it. I'm going to be moving the site to a different server before I do, but as of right now, you can go ahead and create a login, and then it does bring up a sales page afterwards. When it brings up that sales page, you just click the home button, and it'll be fine. It'll just direct you away from it. You don't put the credit card in yet. So hopefully everybody's with that. Lonely Ocean, it says you gotta go. If you gotta take off, man, I totally understand. You take care and have a good one. Thank you for stopping in. Thank you for all the comments tonight. And guys, if you could take a moment, please give the live stream a like, so it'll just help other people find it if they're still out there looking around. So we're going to dive in. We're going to go into the videos tab now, and this is what you will see when you pull up the videos tab. It's going to take a moment to open here because we are streaming out, so this is going live from the internet. But it'll bring up the theater. It's got all the videos in here. I will be adding a comment section that goes in here. And then this is everything's going to show up in here, and then you'll be able to select by, what it is that you want to see: boat projects, sailing, memorial videos, Jeep videos. All that's going to have its own category in there. Hey, Lonely Ocean, you're welcome. You have a fantastic evening. I really appreciate you being here. And WB Ball says Dexter is the cock of the walk for sure. You betcha on that. That dog is he is just a character. And so we've got that, and then we'll go in, and I've got a page dedicated to the boat on here that talks about everything on there, which I do need to get out, take some better pictures, some things like that. My photography has advanced a whole lot since I took a lot of these photos on the site, but the boat will get in the water for that. And so we've got like drawings of the boat, and I've actually got some better drawings I'm working on that I'll post up here, things like that. So you guys will be able to see the boat, see, kind of take the virtual tour of it and everything. You can see inside of it, and then once I get the refit done, I'll put all new pictures in here and all that. So it'll give you a really good idea what the inside of the boat looks like. And then we've got the crew page, and it just basically talks about everybody. See, we got Dexter on there, the fuzz bomb. He is my master at arms. He is the one who takes care of everything. And actually, if you go over, if you guys do the Instagram thing, Dexter has his own Instagram. It is at fuzz_bomb_doggo. You can see right there on the screen. And so that is Dexter's Instagram. And so then also we've got Alex on here, which Alex, used to be in the videos with me, and he's in the Navy now. And we'll tell another story on that, but I actually helped him go into the Navy. And then the piece de resistance, the part that I have been wanting to show you guys so much, the part that has taken so much of my time to build and still needs some fine-tuning, but it is functional. We have the Renegade Show Forum. And what is really cool about this is the one thing I don't like about doing YouTube is it does tend to turn into one-way communication, and the comments section on here kind of sucks. You don't really have good comments on there. You don't really have a good way to moderate things on there, and it could be done a lot better. And so I came up with this. And this is going to be nothing short of amazing. This is going to be where we're able to build a community. And that's what I'm really excited about this for. That's why I'm building this site. It's so we can have this community, because I want to get to know some of you guys have been around here for a long time. And so as it exists right now, it's kind of only a one-way thing. It's just like, hey, here's the stuff I'm working on. Here's the trip I had. This is what I did. I never get to see anything back. And I like to talk about stuff. I love to chat about things. And so I have now built myself my own forum where you can come over and you could take part in this forum. You could post your own projects. You could post your own stuff that you've put together. If you've taken a cool photo and you want to come over and show it off to everybody, you're able to go in and do that. And so that is why this is such a huge deal for me getting this put together. And it's going to take more tweaking. I'll be working on this for a substantial amount of time, but it has been just such an adventure putting this together. And I am so completely proud of what I've done here. And then we will have a store as well. I did not have that finished in time to go up for this broadcast, and so that's kind of the thing. Also, everybody has their own profile page, and so when you take pictures, do things like that, you'll be able to see, I'm on the Dexter profile right now because I didn't want to log in with mine because it's got some moderation stuff in there, but we will be having moderators come on board. Some people from the audience will be getting promoted to be moderators on here, take care of things like that, and so that is going to be really freaking cool. And so we'll dive back into the forum here. I'm just going to show you this. I did something with this that I am super insanely proud of. You come in here, it's only got one thread in here right now, but I will go in, let me find a picture to upload in here, and we'll go into, we'll take a picture of, we'll say my 93 Z28 Camaro. I know I'm putting this in the sailing forum, but I'll delete it later. So we'll drop the, you have to put the cursor in there first, and I've got it set to where I can just drag it in, drop it in, and then I'll hit home, hit enter a couple of times, and then go up, and we'll say hello. Oops. And I don't know, see, there are still a few tweaks that need to be made. This is my 93 Z Tech 2. Let me, oh, yeah, it's because this has hotkeys. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Sorry about that. I forgot that I've got hotkeys set for the streaming software, so if I touch my keyboard, I can put numbers in, because that's how I'm flipping through the screens here, so sorry about that. But we'll go in. We've got the Camaro dropped in here, and I'll hit the new thread title, My Camaro Demo Thread. I guess I should have turned the caps lock off, but oh well. And we will click submit. And there we go. There is this is my 93 Z28 Camaro. And then in the comments section, if I click on the comments section, I can go back in, I can grab an image. We'll grab an image of the old pickup truck there, and we'll drop that there, and bam, we got a picture of the pickup truck, and then I'm just going to hit submit, and you'll see that that comment now shows up down here. And so what's neat about this is in this thread is, like, let's say that I wanted to add a post, because for the comments down below, this is just where you put comments. And one of the things I've always hated about internet forums is that if your forum, yeah, you won't be able to see me because I'm got the screen fall up here, but you guys should be able to see it. Hopefully we got audio. Hopefully everything's working. I can see levels peaking. If not, let me know in the chat. But you can see that I've got a couple of buttons up here. I've got an add post button. So if you're the thread owner, if you're the one who's running the thread, you could say add post, and then we'll come in. So now we've got another new post screen. So we'll go back and we'll grab an image. And for this one here, we'll just do the Jeep leaving the shop. Oh, you got to put the cursor in there first. That's the one thing. So we got the Jeep leaving the shop. So there's the picture of the Jeep, and then we'll just say Jeep leaving the shop. And submit. And there we are. And look at that. And that's that is a heck of a thing there. So didn't that roll cage come out beautiful in that black Jeep? I'm just so stoked about that. I didn't even get any pictures of the thing all the way put together because I had to get it out of there so fast. I mean, I worked till like 1 in the morning that night trying to get that thing packed up and out the door because I had to be gone, and then came in the next day, cleaned out the shop, and then had to go back to work there. But guys, that is the forum, and so now you see up here we have the page markers here, so I can go back to the previous page, I can go to the next page. And the reason I did this is, like, let's say that this is a project that someone's working on, and so you come in, you're like, hey, this is my 93 Z28. Well, all the comments go down in the comments section down here. and then you're able to see what the original poster was posting at the top. And so that way, when someone's doing a detailed build thread, you're not having to read through 50 million other comments from other people coming through trying to find the stuff that the original guy posted. And so this is just a really, different hierarchical way of doing it. I think it works really well, and so I'm really proud of how this works. And what's going to be really neat is we'll go back into the main forum here. And so we've got all of these different forums down here, and certain, like the crew quarters, only certain people can go in there. The private doc is only gold and platinum members, and then we're going to have just different things for that. So people who move up to the higher levels of the site, they do get a couple of special privileges, and so that's kind of a neat thing that we get out of that there. So I'm pretty excited about this. And so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Are you excited about getting into the forum? Is this going to be a really cool thing for you? Please do let me know in the chat, because that's, or if you're watching this after the fact, absolutely leave a comment, because I'm incredibly proud of what it is we've built here. So I'm going to pop back over to main now. Uh-oh. Did we lose video? Give me a second. We lost video. Let me stand up and reset this. There we go. She had popped off there. Okay, so we have the audio working again. The camera's just a little high. I feel like I need to I feel like I'm stretching to get my head in here, but the top of the monitor is like right here. So if I put it any lower, you see the back of the monitor, and I need to get this setup figured out a little bit better, but we'll make that happen. I really should just get a proper webcam, but I've been spending so much money making this type of stuff work, I don't have anything for film gear right now. So here we go, diving into this. Step Deck Princess, hey Missy! Fantastic, can't wait. I think this is going to be amazing. I am super freaking stoked about it. It's just going to let everybody get together. And so we're going to do a live stream here in another couple of weeks as I get ready to actually kick the site online for good. You guys are welcome to sign up today, create a profile. The profile you create today will be there. Let me stress again, do not put in a credit card number. Do not run a credit card through the site. It won't run. It won't work. You're just sending your credit card number out there without getting anything back for it if you do it right now. I will have it online. I have not put it online and tested that part yet, though. So please do not put in your credit card. I can't say that enough times. And so we're going to get this all set up, and I'll be taking the site down probably tomorrow morning sometime. So, and it'll just go back to the construction page that has Dexter on there. But I'm just going to leave this up so that anyone after the fact who is catching the live stream can go in and do it. You can go in there and check it out. As a matter of fact, right now I'm going to drop into the chat and say the renegadeshow.com is where we're going for this. And so it's really cool having my own domain, having everything there. And the videos section is going to get updated a bit as we go into that as well. So I'm very, very excited about this. And it's just kind of like a lifelong bunch of dreams is coming back together here. Let me put this over where I can see you guys now, because I'm having to crank my head around to get into that screen to see it. Okay. And so for the final portion of the stream here, what we're going to talk about is what comes in the next year, where we're going from here, what's going to happen from here. And I'll talk about where I've been, because I did wind up going back to work for a bit. And I just needed more money to make this boat stuff happen. I mean, it's been insanely expensive, and I have shoveled a lot of money at it. I think it's going to absolutely be worth it in the end, but that's where we're at right now. And so hoping a couple more months I can have this boat in the water. We're going to be pushing into that really hard. The video content's going to start running again. When I was doing the Jeep videos, I was actually working for the trucking company by the name of Steve Sharp Trucking, and Steve's a pretty good dude. Went to work for him. I mean, guy works crazy hard and goes out there and does that. So, but yeah, I'm going to show you some of those pictures now. Hopefully you guys can still hear me okay. But this is some of the photos I took while I was out working for Steve. This was out at the Port of Duluth, and I got to move some of the biggest stuff I had in my lifetime around on here. I mean, we really upped the heavy haul game, and it was a hell of a challenge. I mean, it was about all I could do to do some of this stuff, by the way. I mean, this was a big leap from where I'd been with an 8-axle. I mean, this was huge. And so this is the truck that I was driving out there. This is it's a 2013 Kenworth T800. It's got the Cummins in it, 4-axle tractor, 3-axle Jeep on that, and then you got a 6-axle Cozad self-steering dolly on there. And let me tell you, that was some of the most stressful truck driving I've ever done moving those, because we were going from Duluth, Minnesota over to Summit, South Dakota with those loads, and anyone who has trucked through that country knows what an insane journey that is. And so we're going to be, we're out there just having a crazy time with it, running several pilot cars with each of these. I had to have a steerman to get me around. The first steerman they sent me out with wasn't any good. Second steerman they sent me out with wasn't any good. Actually, while another driver was in the truck, that steerman drove it into a ditch, me trying to get it out. We got the tractor stuck in the ditch. It turned into a real bad deal. And then they finally got me a good steerman, the guy by the name of Brody. And Brody, oh my God, saved our lives out there, because Brody really knew what he was doing, and was super happy to hear him come through with that. So that was pretty fantastic to have him on the team. And then everything started going really smooth once he was on board, so I was really happy. I did some driving the pilot truck too, but did several runs in this truck. I think I hauled 6 or 8 of those tops. I don't remember what there were, but there were about 30 of them on the job. I did like 6 or 8 of them, so that was a lot of moving of them. And this is just as this is the last sunset on the job as we were just tearing down. On this one here, I made a video about this. This was just like moving everything out there, running around, and I did shoot some video while I was out there doing it. I probably should put that up. Well, I'm gonna need to talk to Steve about that, but these were 24 feet wide, 22 high. They were bringing these down out of Canada, taking them down to Utah, and so those were a hell of a deal. And for that run there, I was just running pilot truck. This one here is one that I was hauling. That was that same tractor I was pulling the other tubes with, but this is with the big trailer, and that these were a base section for the wind farm they were building up there by Casper, and so we did a lot of that early on too. And these were the what the hell are these called? The damn I cannot think of the name of that damn trailer now. It's been like a year since I pulled it, so I can't remember. Anyways, moving right along. But yeah, and this was up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, right in front of the truck stop right there, right by the Loves. Pulled over on the on-ramp there as I was getting back on, ran over, got something to eat, that little tiny truck stop there. It's next door. And this is this is in South Dakota somewhere when we were headed out, and I had a hell of a trip out there. And then there is that big fuzzy boy right there. He, I tell you what, he had him a time last year. If David Carroll pops into the stream here, he'll tell you a hell of a story. We took the dog to the bar in Wyoming, right? And it was on the night they had an all-you-can-eat prime rib, and he started giving the lady the saddest faces in there, and next thing you know, he's got a plate of prime rib for himself. It was absolutely hilarious. And then, there we go. That's another picture from when we were out there loading up. And we're waiting for them to go load these bases. It's so frustrating because the whole crew shut down. They wouldn't load us while the ship was in port, so we were just waiting around. It took forever to get that job done, like weeks longer than it was supposed to. And then that was the last tube of the job there that I hauled out. And then, yeah, I was so happy to get out from underneath that thing. So that brings us into what the plan for this year is. And like I said, next couple of weeks here, I'm going to be finishing up the website, getting everything put back together there. And once the website is put together, then we will be moving over, and I'll be doing a lot of my video content will be coming out there first, and then it will come to YouTube. I'm actually messing around with YouTube's API right now because they have a way that I can just publish my videos to my site, and then it'll wind up on YouTube automatically. So I just do a one and done, upload it there, and then everything else gets handled on its own. The scheduling, everything, boom, 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 done, done, done. And so I'm really looking at that, and since some of these videos are public-facing, they should start to show up at search engines, everything else. And so I'm really hoping that I can turn this into a cool kind of community where we're doing sailing stuff, where we're having adventures and everything else, and playing around with cars, and all the things that I really love to do. That's what the Renegade show is going to be. I mean, and the nice thing about having my own website is I can start to get into some of the topics that I really want to talk about, the things that are verboten here on YouTube. And so having that set up, that is going to be a really good deal. We'll be able to go in, kick that off, and I won't have to worry about some algorithm coming smacking me down, because all the spicy content can just go over there, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. So, guys, that's kind of where we're at with everything. Oh, sailing plans. I've got 2 sailing plans I'm looking at right now. One is a trip north to Alaska, which I would really like to do. The other is going to be a trip down to Central America. I would really love to do the sailing across to the Philippines and all that I've been planning since the beginning, and that is still part of my long-term plans. But the problem right now is that everything in Southeast Asia, for one, is closed. They're getting hit by this whole sickness really hard, and I suspect that from how hard they're getting hit, because everything has been closed for so long, it looks like they're going to lose about 2 years' worth of their tourist revenue. I'm extremely worried about the levels of crime. And since I'm worried about the levels of crime, yeah, that's going to be a big deal. And so I think I'm going to do South America. I'm going to go down to Colombia, probably Costa Rica, Panama, probably over to Brazil. I'd like to go up see some friends in Texas, maybe run up the East Coast, see my brother that's out there. I've got some family on the East Coast as well, so that'd be really cool. It'd be really neat to sail the boat into Washington, D.C., do some things like that. And so I've got a lot of different things I'm looking at there in that, and I think that'll be a really good deal. I'm pretty stoked about it, so I'm anxious to see how everything goes. And WB Ball says, spicy, like Joe Zakami? Well, considering that I was active duty for 9/11 and everything that has transpired in the previous weeks here, I would say, yeah. When it comes to Joe Biden, I absolutely believe that China got what they paid for. And no one can tell me otherwise. Spicier content. Yeah, I don't want to be like an all politics channel. There's enough of that around today, believe me. We've all been saturated with it enough. What I am going to get into a little bit more is I am going to talk about basically my trip into finding happiness, some things I learned, and a lot of what it is that I learned there in finding that happiness in my life was I've been into the red pill community for a long time now. Way back. Like I'm an OG with that stuff, like going all the way back to the days like Tom Likas. And then moving forward, like through Aaron Clary, and then the guys you have out there today doing some really good content like Rollo Tomosity, Richard Cooper, and then like over John at Modern Life Dating, a lot of those guys. I think they're doing really good things. And I have a lot of those lessons I've learned for myself, and I've made a lot of mistakes in my life too. And I think I'm going to be a little bit brave with that and just bear a lot of those mistakes. I'm going to make videos about it. And I'm going to explain for, specifically young men, but I think it's valuable for all men, how they can go through life and not make the same mistakes that I did. Because in some of the men that I have been able to give just a bit of guidance to that have listened to me, they are doing exceptionally well in their lifetimes now. I mean, oh my God, are those guys doing good? And I've been really just blunt and to the point with them. I've said, hey, if you do the things that I did at this time, this is how it worked out for me, and this is probably how it'll work out for you. And, don't do this if you really want to mess your life up. And some guys have been very receptive to that, and some guys have really stuck with that. So I'm really excited. You can hear Dexter out there. Oh, he stopped. I said his name. But did you get him? Did you get him? Oh, that dog. Still wanting to be the guard dog. But like I was saying, by giving them the benefit of my experience, they have lived better lives than I could have, and I wish that I had that when I was coming up. And in the world, especially the Western world, I've really noticed there are a lot of traps for men over here, and I have been lucky to avoid several of those traps in my lifetime. Some of them I've had to learn the hard way, but fortunately I haven't really got too burned from it. And so I want to share that information. And so in videos I make, it's going to be some of that, because I think I've found my life into a pretty good place today. I'm living on a boat. I like what I'm doing. I've got a lot of freedom. I'm pretty financially independent. As this channel grows, I'm going to have more financial independence. And so I think that's going to be the business model of this in the future is we're going to go forward. We're going to make some really interesting content. I'm going to do some documentaries. I've actually got a documentary about China coming up that we're going to get into. And so that's going to be really cool when I get into that. I think everybody's going to enjoy that very much. And so we're really looking forward to that. And when I get down to like Central South America, I want to start doing a lot of photography stuff again, which is going to mean hiring models, taking, I'm not going to do anything pornographic, but I'm going to do Just like some girls in bikinis on the boat, things like that. Put it up for the members to enjoy. Just kind of a fun thing, just because we're guys and we want to have fun, and life should be enjoyed. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to go out and live it to my fullest, and that's kind of the plan here. So it's going to get pretty wild. I think we're going to have some interesting things going on, and I know we're absolutely going to make some people mad, and that's the great thing about putting it on my own website. That's why I've worked so hard to build this. Is now I don't have to worry about who we make mad. I don't have to worry about who gets butthurt about what I'm doing, because I'm living on a boat. I've got my own website. I've got autonomy. It's not like I can get kicked out of the place I'm living. It's not like I can lose my job because I've got an income stream. It's not like I can lose my website because it's not, I'm essentially building this where I can get kicked off of any of the websites I'm on, and I still have mine. They can't take me down. Even if I lose the hosting, I've got everything backed up so it can just be gone and put on another site somewhere. And so I have the autonomy to start having some of the conversations that need to be had and discussing some of the things in this world that are really a lot of traps for people. So that's going to be pretty incredible. All right, guys. Oh, Hazel popped in, said, watching from the Philippines. Well, hey, welcome into the stream. Glad you could make it over for it. And I do want to get over to the Philippines. I mean, I've found, through talking to quite a few Filipinos, I really do like the Filipino people. I think they're good people. And, it's what my grandpa always told me. He always said that they were really good people and he treated them incredibly well. So I'm really hoping that everything smooths out to where I can go see their country and I can get to enjoy that and have that adventure. And then Thailand. And what I'm guessing will probably happen is I'll probably sail to down to Colombia, do that, do the trip around that area there, because I'm going to go through the canal, and then I'll probably wind up sailing back through the canal, and then coming across the Pacific, going down to the Philippines, Thailand, and then probably Korea, maybe stop in Vietnam, and then up to Korea, Japan, Alaska, then back down to Washington, where I'm at now, will probably be the plan there. So we'll have to see how all that rolls out. Anyways, guys, we have been going for an hour and 34 minutes now. I'm going to pop the floor open to see if we have any questions. I mean, we're kind of getting down on the stream here. I know it is an evening, and for a lot of people it is getting pretty late, so there's not that many folks left online right now. We're kind of getting late in the chat, but for those of you that have stuck out here, thank you for watching, and I'll give it just a minute if anybody has any questions, and if not, we'll hop on off of here. All right, guys, well, we're not seeing any questions come on through. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and call it for the evening. That was kind of a lot telling that whole story, but again, that's... Oh, here we go. Do you still have the Kenworths? I still have the red truck. I do not have the blue truck anymore. The blue truck is gone. Someone else has the blue truck now. The red truck I still have. I would love to get that truck put back together, and at some point we're going to, because I will be doing some more stuff with the trucking industry eventually. I just need to get the other side of my life sorted out first, and then we will, because I really do want to finish that site I've been building, Open Deck Exchange, all that. It's just I need the boat to be back in the water. I need to have the time to work on it and do it, and I really don't want to try and finish that boat on the hard, because it's difficult being up here. And actually, the video I've got coming out in a couple of weeks, you guys are really going to love. It's going to be talking about life on the hard, and that'll be kind of what jumps us back into this whole process here. So hopefully you'll tune in for that. Step Deck Princess says, great live. Hey, Missy, thank you very much. Glad you could make it over for this. And if nobody else has any questions, I'm going to start getting ready to wind down here and pop off. And going to head on out and get some dinner, as I am starving. It was a long day. Actually, what you guys don't realize is, I mean, up until about 4 hours ago, I was still coding on this site, getting it ready to go online, looking for bugs, everything else, uploaded it, messed around with it, put it on, fought with it. I was really worried I wasn't going to make it in time for the stream, but we just barely inched her in there. But we did it, and I'm super proud of it, and I'm looking forward to letting y'all get in there and take a look around. And not a lot to see in there yet, but it's coming. And actually, if you want to, you can go in and you can post in the forums right now. We will be deleting everything that goes in there, so anything that's posted now won't be saved. But all your user logins will remain. So if you sign up for the site, use a legitimate email, use a legitimate username, and then we'll take it from there. So, but that's how we're doing it. So it's kind of a neat thing too, because when I go in, I can see who joined and in what order. So, anyways, guys, well, I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. This has been 5,000 days of sobriety. I feel absolutely amazing, and it's just it's surreal getting to this goal. So, you have yourselves a fantastic evening, and we'll catch you on the next one.